Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So, taking out a very unexpected video for you guys today, and even for me. That is because as of about 24 hours ago, I received unsolicited a review code in my email for Hong Kong 2097. And if that doesn't sound familiar, it is the sequel to Hong Kong 97, a bootleg game released on the NES by Kowloon Kurosawa. And that game was basically a very divisive, very subversive thumbing of the nose as to what a video game could be and what was acceptable in the medium. And that's definitely taken on a legend much larger than life later on when YouTube became a thing and YouTube channels started talking about the game. So now, as of today, apparently Hong Kong 2097 does exist. It is something you can play and it's something I can talk about on the channel. And that's exactly what I'm going to do because I found this game to be very confusing, very weird, and very strange all at the same time. And that is because you have to talk about the aspect of timing. Now, when I talk to my film students, they're making difficult work. I ask them, just because you can do something does not mean you should do it. You have to answer to yourself if this is the work you want to make, it's what you want to be known for, and whether or not the content matter that you're dealing with is something that people would be interested in. Now, you'll just see there, I changed the text to one of the story beats, and that is because it is absolutely nothing I am showing and nothing that can be shown on this platform. But as far as Rush Limbaugh jokes are concerned, who the hell would even know who he is that might be playing video games these days, if I'm being entirely honest? Now, I understand that Hong Kong 2097 is not supposed to be a good game. The entire joke about it is it's a bad game, but honestly it's bad for a lot of the wrong reasons, and it's one of those things I really think it steps on that kind of B-movie aesthetic reputation that the original Hong Kong 97 had. Think about something like Tommy Wiseau's The Room. We don't need a Room sequel because that original is so bad, but yet so beloved it stands on its own. And trust me, I am no stranger to some janky weird media. I will still say to this day one of my favorite films of all time is Caligula, and just recently my wife and I went to the Music Box in Chicago and watched basically a 4-hour long new cut of that movie and absolutely loved the ever-loving hell out of it. But that is to say, it is still not a good film, it's still a divisive film, and it still is a movie that you'd have to ask yourself, was it really worth making in the first place? And that's the exact same question we can ask about something like Hong Kong 2097. Did this game need to exist? Are there enough people out there that know about the original that would purchase this? And exactly what is it you're trying to improve upon, trying to cash in on, or otherwise trying to say with a new version of a game that is just an internet meme? And I will say whatever that is here, Kowloon Kurosawa, who apparently worked on this, and the new developers have just completely missed the boat on what that would be. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand this game is not supposed to be good, but it doesn't need to be as bad as it is at the same time. There was a way to take a game like Hong Kong 97 and turn it into a new game, but I can assure you Hong Kong 2097 is not that game. And it's not surprised that this basically failed the Steam review and Steam would not allow it on. Now, just recently I talked about another game that was banned from Steam, and that one I said absolutely had a message to send. The content matter was not problematic in any way, shape, or form, and it really was disappointing that it had been kept from an audience. Now, Hong Kong 2097, again, I just don't think this game's timing is effective right now whatsoever, because I have definitely cut parts of this video out, and that is because in our current climate, this is just not the type of thing that you probably want to joke around with. And trust me, I have a sense of humor that would probably make a lot of people blush. There is very little that bothers me, and honestly, there isn't anything in this game that does in fact bother me personally. But I could totally see other people out there wondering, what in the hot holy shit were you thinking releasing this right now? And I'm sure that's why all the platforms have kept it from you as well. But this is available, you can go out there and pick it up if you want to, but I think just watching people talk about it is more than enough Hong Kong 2097 than you could ever possibly need. And I will say, even though this game again is intentionally janky, the overall control scheme, which we'll get in after hopefully a soundtrack sample, is so inherently flawed that it's impossible to even really correctly interact with this game. But I'm going to try to give you one soundtrack sample here, we'll see how it goes. 45 seconds of either an annoying music loop or 45 seconds of weird silence, and I'll be right back. Now, if that actually didn't get eaten up on YouTube, you can hear that that is going to be what you're going to be interacting with basically the entirety of your playthrough, because you're probably not going to get to anywhere in the game where you could actually even be able to hear another song. We'll actually get into the gameplay or lack thereof in just a moment, but we need to talk about the big pink mushroom-shaped elephant in the room here. This game is confirmed to basically be almost entirely made out of AI, and you can definitely feel however you want about that. And I don't think I've talked about this on the channel too much at this point in time, but as far as commercial products are concerned, Video Game Esoterica, as in me, my name is Anthony, so you know who's saying this, has a very firm opinion on AI for creative purposes for profit. I absolutely wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, and if you call yourself an AI artist, you are not an artist at all. I just recently met somebody and they talked about the fact that they were an AI artist, and I couldn't help myself but say, so you're not actually an artist at all. When they got upset with it, I basically just said, I'm sorry, but that is not art. It's just ruining the entire medium. That's exactly how I feel about this stuff. I have friends that are basically completely out of work now because AI has decimated their industries. I would never touch AI for any creative purposes on this channel, in my practice or otherwise. I make it by hand or I don't make it whatsoever. So as far as using that here, it doesn't have to be a good game, but you could at least hire some people to actually make the art for it like the original would have. And honestly, because this game is so janky, you could have just borrowed some clip art from the internet and moved it around on screen, because it's not like anything is really animating here. It's animatic levels of just kind of moving things around. So why they'd even do this in the first place is beyond me, but it really doesn't help this game's viewpoint when it really isn't even made by human hands, because at least the original Hong Kong 97 made by Kowloon Kurosawa was made by an actual person, and that just is definitely a bummer. And I will say mechanically, I don't know what the hell they were thinking here. You can obviously only shoot when you're stationary and you're going to move around with the analog stick or keys on the keyboard, but you also have a shield that you can rotate in 360 degrees, and let me tell you, unless you have three hands, you're not going to be able to effectively control this game, because I could not find a single control scheme, a single way to hold my hand in which I was able to move around the screen, use the mouse cursor to actually shoot at the enemies, and move that shield at the same time. And this game is just set up to kill you over and over again, and it isn't even charming in that. And why is the Trix Rabbit a background with a waffle in a thought bubble? It doesn't matter in this game, because that kind of is the thing. The original could be a little bit creative in what it was showing you and how it was trying to shock and exploit you. This one here kind of just feels like somebody went on Google Images and typed in weird backgrounds and just ran with the first 10 results they got. Why are these Adonis dudes with underwear and shotguns hanging around on screen? I don't know. Maybe they're trying to ape something like Icho and Iki, but they're doing a very bad job. So the entire point about Hong Kong 2097 is, do you need to exist or not? And why would somebody send this to me? Probably just because they knew I like talking about weird games, but honestly, you got me to talk about it, maybe not in the way that you were hoping for. Just think about all those film franchises or films you love out there that just randomly get a sequel from nowhere, and then you realize that sequel didn't need to exist, it isn't adding anything to the overall franchise whatsoever, and maybe it would have been best just to leave well enough alone, and to not actually go back in and try to recreate whatever magic you had before. And that is the fault of Hong Kong 2097. It has absolutely no reason to exist. It isn't saying anything about society that is in any way, shape, or form interesting or even poignant, and a lot of times it just says things that in 2026 absolutely just aren't going to find an audience anywhere whatsoever, and that just is something that you don't want to be basically fucking around with at this point in time, for lack of a better term. So I made a Hong Kong 2097 video. I'm sure it'll sell a few copies, and if you want to check it out, that is totally cool. I have absolutely no opposition for this sort of stuff existing. Just for me personally, I have to wonder, like I say to my students, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. And in this instance, the developers here of Hong Kong 2097 should have left this idea on the cutting room floor and just basically thought to themselves, there's 100 better ways to use our time. But I'll see you next time. Bye bye.